Hi, this is Lori and welcome to my series on building robots. This is part 3 in the SunFounder PiCar kit build. In this episode, we're going to connect all the boards together on the robot and to the Raspberry Pi. We'll also get our Raspberry Pi set up with an operating system so that we can remote log into it. And we're going to copy over the code we'll need from the SunFounder GitHub site to run our PiCar. Let's get started. First step will be to connect power. We'll connect the power from the robot hat to the servo board, and then we'll also connect in the battery pack to the robot hat. And here's the parts we'll need just to connect those pieces in, and you can see just plug in the battery pack to it and make that connection. Now we'll connect the modules. We'll need the 5-wire and the 4-wire to connect up, and you can see them here. Now this is a step where that 5-wire connection between the hat and the motor driver board is very tight, so just take your time and you might have to stretch it just a little bit to make it work. And also in this diagram, we need to connect the motor driver board to the pulse width modulation board with that little black and red one. You can see it here. It's not power or ground, it's signal pins, so it's a little confusing, the color. But just go ahead and connect them right in there and get that all set up. Next up is the servos. We'll have the steering servo that's separate, and the pan and tilt servo are on that pan and tilt mechanism. So you can see them here. And we're going to connect them up to the pulse width modulation board. So you can see them there in position 0, 1, and 2. And our last step is to connect the motors. This is a pretty easy step. Just connect them into the motor driver board right there. So it's all done now. We have the circuit building steps complete. Now it's time to get that Raspberry Pi going. Yeah, so now it's time to put an OS on our Raspberry Pi. And if you've never done this before, I definitely recommend going to raspberrypi.org and following the setting up tutorial. And it talks all about how to set up an SD card and gives you a link to their Raspberry Pi Imager software. And that's what I have there at the corner already set up. So you can download the version you need for your computer, and then it's pretty easy after that. So you just want to take your card, put it in a reader you have for your computer. I happen to have a Mac, so I have an external one, and put that in, and then you come to the imager and you choose your device. So this is a Raspberry Pi 4 that we're going to use in this robot. And then I did run into an issue here. I tried to put the most recent version of the Raspberry Pi OS onto the 4, and I couldn't run the SunFounder install script when I did that. If I did that, then the Django and Flask, I think it was, wouldn't load. And so I sent a note to them in their forum asking them, what to do. And they said to use an older version of the Raspberry Pi OS. So they recommended the Bullseye one here from December 2023. I had kind of gotten the idea, so I'd actually done one from May 2023. I think that'll work. And once I did do that, use the older OS, the install script worked for me. So we'll see how it goes after that. That's as far as I've gotten. So we'll definitely not want to use the Bookworm. We'll want to use something, the Bullseye, or maybe even an earlier version if you want to. So you click on that, and then now that you have this plugged in, it should be something you see, and so you can just click that. Now then the next thing you're going to want to do is set up some custom OS settings, and you want to give it a name. So I called this PiCar-V, and gave it my username and password for this Raspberry Pi. And you want to configure up your wireless network, and you want to have that so that as soon as you turn it on, it can connect to your network. and set up all your time zone and language stuff. And you'll also want to make sure that enable SSH is on, because that's how we're going to be able to get into our car from another computer and load software and so forth on it. So we'll need to use SSH. So make sure that's enabled so that you can do that. And if you have all those set up, it should work. And there is some good instruction in the SunFounder tutorial for all of this. So once you have those in place, you just say yes. And it's going to remind you that it's going to erase everything on there, so make sure that's not your family photos from your vacation. And go ahead and do that. And I need to give my permission here. So to load it, and it'll go. All right. So it'll take a little bit, and won't make us sit here through all of this, but it'll get loaded on, and then we'll be able to put that into our PiCar. Now it's time to turn on our Raspberry Pi, give it some power. So they suggest in the manual putting in the batteries that you have for it and using that to power the Pi. Because we don't have the front part on here, we still have access to the power here. So I just plug mine in using my my power adapter that I normally use for Raspberry Pi 4s, and that way I don't have to worry about the batteries and running out of charge or whatever. Now the next thing you're going to have to do is get a hold of the IP address, because as this comes on, and because we set it up when we made our OS on the SD card, we told it what Wi-Fi and password we wanted it to use and connect to. It's going to get on that Wi-Fi network, and it'll be assigned an IP address when it does that. And we need to know what that address is. Now, the simplest way, if you're in a home network situation and you have access to your router, you'll be able to log into your router. All routers have some sort of software, app that'll allow you to log in, and you should be able to look at all the devices that are on your Wi-Fi network, and you'll be able to find the IP address for the Pi. You'll see it with the name, whatever name you gave it. I gave it PiCar-V, so I was able to see that in the list and get the IP address for mine on my home internet. If you're in another situation, you're going to need to figure that out, and it can be a little challenging, I think, sometimes in other kinds of situations. And so it's good to take a pause here and ask around if you need to figure out how you would find out what the IP address of your Raspberry Pi is on the Wi-Fi network. And that's just something good to know how to do for your situation, because there's lots of good reasons you want to connect into your Raspberry Pi, for example, remotely, and you absolutely need to know that IP address. We'll go ahead and remote login, use SSH, the username that I set up when we did the OS, and the IP address that my router assigned the Pi. And you can see this first time that it's been seen. So we'll go ahead and say yes, it's okay. And then we need to use the password that we set up on our Pi. And we're logged in, and we can just do a little ls to see, did we get the typical directories that we should get for a Raspberry Pi brand new setup. And yep, that looks pretty normal. And we can see print working directory, see where we are. We're in our home directory, so we're set and ready to start installing the SunFounder software. According to the manual, it tells us we need to get the source code, and so we're going to clone the source code that's on the GitHub site. And so you could go to GitHub and look at this, and this is just the code that we would need. The CD// will take us to our home directory, which is where we are now. Anyways, we can see that. So we'll do that, and if we print working directory, we're back. We didn't move. We're where we're supposed to be, but that's just to make sure we're in the right directory before they do this clone. So then I'm going to copy this code here, and I'm going to paste it into our terminal window and go ahead and return that. So now we can see it's starting to copy everything over, and it won't take too long. It should go pretty fast here. There we go. So now we have the source code for running our video car. Now we'll start working on doing the install. Next step is to move to the directory. So let's just do an ls and see. Yeah, we definitely have the SunFounder PiCar-V directory that was added to what we already had before. So we can definitely see that worked. So we want to go ahead and move to that directory. So I'll just copy this code and put it into our window. And there we are, we're in that. And next step is to install the dependencies. So this is going to get the scripts put together, hopefully. So let's go and copy that. And hopefully this should work. I tried, as I mentioned before, I tried this and I used the most recent version of the Raspberry Pi OS and that didn't work. So we definitely, hopefully things will work smoothly now using the older legacy software. Yeah, Django was one that didn't work before. And Flask was the other one. It also didn't work before, so it all seems to be working. Yeah. Excellent. Well, we're gonna let it go because I think it's kind of when you don't know what you're doing here, you kind of think, whoa, what is all this stuff going by? So it's good to see it go by, and hopefully yours will look like mine. And I don't think it takes too long to completely install. Just a few more moments, I think, and we'll get all this software going. And then I think we start calibrating the servos as the next step. Wow, look at all that. I feel very accomplished. Even I just typed a few simple little small command, and so now it says yeah, it looks like everything was complete, and I see here everything was a success. Definitely wasn't a success when I used the current operating system, so this all looks good, and we probably need to do a reboot, so we'll go ahead and say, yeah, we'll do that. I think we'll stop this episode here. In the next part, part 4, we'll pick up with configuring the servos and finishing the car build. As always, thanks for watching.